YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. The NFL trade deadline has passed. We had 4 deals go down today. I'm here to give you my thoughts and grade those trades. We also had some deals go down in the last week or so. Kenny Young, Mark Ingram, Stephen Weatherly, Joe Flacco. I'm going to grade those as well. Von Miller had his own video for himself for that, and then I graded both teams on that as well. So check that out. It's up. All the other trades done, graded. We got you covered here. Full NFL coverage, weekly picks every Tuesday night. A little later this week it'll be up, but Tuesday night power rankings already up. A lot of NFL content here. So join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Follow our Twitter. Because we were talking about all this news today and giving my thoughts even afterward. Deshaun Jackson is now a free agent to waivers. He's subject to waivers. So we were talking a lot about that. A lot going on this Twitter. You're missing out if you're not following it. I'm going to grade all these trades. I think it's eight trades I'm going to grade here. So predicted this one right. Melvin Ingram to the Chiefs, a 2022 6th-round pick, which is conditional, goes to the Steelers. You know, sometimes it's a little tricky to figure out what the conditions are. Sometimes it's the Steelers don't get the pick. If Ingram doesn't stick with the Chiefs, it doesn't work out right away. Sometimes it would be that 6th-round pick can turn into a better pick. I know the Chiefs don't have a 5th-round pick, so I don't think it's that. I gave the Chiefs an A. They need a pass rusher badly. We were starting to think, they're going to end up with maybe a solid young guy, but a guy that's kind of a maybe works out. OMENIHU, Collier. The Chiefs are trying to help themselves now. Melvin Ingram definitely helps them now. I talked about it. He creates for his teammates. He makes his teammates better. And the Chiefs feel like they have the guys with Frank Clark, Chris Jones, Jaron Reed. So Ingram kind of made sense there. 6th-round pick. I was talking about the Chiefs getting Melvin Ingram and they didn't have a 5th. So I'm like, they're going to have to give up a 4th. Maybe they get something back, but still have to give up that 4th. But no, they gave up a 6th-round pick. It's conditional. Sometimes I assume, in this case, I assume that, if Ingram, doesn't work out this first week or something, they doesn't end up sticking. Maybe they don't have to give up that pick. Who knows? But I gave it an A. It's a really good deal. For the Steelers, I'm surprised that, because they were talking about trading him to the NFC. But I was like, well, why wouldn't you trade the Chiefs? They offer something better, but I'm surprised that any NFC team didn't offer a 6th-round pick or anything like that. I know he wanted to be dealt, but I'm sure he would have if he was still on the team at the deadline, he would have stuck around and play as a rotation player. I don't think he was going to hold out or anything like that. So I think they kind of got lowballed, and they probably got screwed because the Chiefs didn't have a 5th-round pick. The 5th-round pick kind of made sense. It's not terrible. That's why I didn't drop it lower than a C. It's definitely not terrible. I just don't view it as a good deal. It's kind of right in the middle there for the Steelers. I think it could have got better. Again, yes, he wanted out, and it is what it is. They're playing Watt and Highsmith mainly. They could use some rotation guys. Charlton, I guess they're going to roll with theirs, rotation. So I gave it a C. It's not one to love for the Steelers, but they move on from him. I guess they didn't want to have him in the locker room if he wasn't happy. Next, now this one I didn't grade too well for the Chiefs. Daniel Brown, the tight end, who we haven't really seen much at all from. They get him for Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, the guard, former starter. Still believe he can play. He could start. The Chiefs improved their offensive line, so they didn't really need him as a starter. I gave the Jets an A. Just a random player swap here. Both expiring deals. So that's the thing with the Jets. You don't get this guard for long term, but you get him in there. Helps you right now. Protect Mike White and then protect your rookie quarterback when he comes in, and you give him a little trial. Maybe we found a guard. We don't have to hit free agency. Maybe we can extend him. So it could be a rental, but I still like it. They weren't using Daniel Brown. The Jets shouldn't be giving up picks because they need them. They did give up a pick. We'll talk about the Flacco trade. So it's good they didn't give up another one here. I like this for the Jets a lot, so I gave it an A. The Chiefs, I guess the Jets didn't want to get another pick, so maybe they were the only team, which is surprising, that was in on Duvernay-Tardif. I feel like the Panthers were, but the Panthers were just out of picks, besides top of the line picks. So maybe that played a part. Maybe the Chiefs just felt like they wanted an upside tight end, but he's an expiring deal. It's just confusing. They couldn't try to get a pick from somebody. It's rare that linemen. It's hard to believe other teams weren't trying to get him. Any kind of offensive lineman with experience, teams should be throwing things. You always hear that they're never available. This, that, whatever. End up with Daniel Brown. So maybe they felt like they needed a tight end. I didn't love it there. Again, Duvernay-Tardif is on an expiring deal. And they do save a little bit of space with this, and they brought in Melvin Ingram, but Melvin Ingram was only due like $500 $97K top of my head. I think that's actually the right number. So it's not like they needed the clear space. So I didn't love that for the Chiefs. Rather just get a pick or something there. I like that for the Jets, like I explained there. So pretty weird trade. The 49ers got Charles OMENIHU, who's, he's been a little underwhelming, but no, he's had his moments, though, his last couple of years. And, he fit more as a 3-4 defensive end previously for the Texans, which he fits better. And then the Texans changed their scheme to 4-3, and he played 4-3. And I still think he fits that. I still think he can play that, and that's where he'll go play for the 49ers. But the 49ers like to move their guys in the defensive line around. They move them around a bit. Slide them inside if they can. OMENIHU has that ability. I love it for the 49ers. I give it an A. Give up a 6th-round pick. It's not this upcoming draft, the next year. I like it. 49ers good at developing these guys. They need another body there on the defensive line for sure. Again, they can move him inside out. He's still got upside. He's shown some promise here and there. He's definitely a guy for the future. He's under contract for another year after this, and it's very cheap. I really like this for the 49ers. It's not one of those trades where, for me to give an A+, I got to be jumping up and down for the team. Maybe it's not quite there, but it's the closest thing, obviously, with a lot of these A's we're giving out for a lot of these teams. And I like it. I like it for them. Texans, what I don't like, the Texans, what they're doing that I don't like is they're kind of just choosing coaching staff / scheme over players. And I was worried they're going to do that with Zach Cunningham as well. They were trying to trade him. And that's a good player, but because they switched the scheme, they're like, oh, he doesn't work. So you're kind of getting worse, and you got to rebuild the whole damn thing. So... And they didn't really, I guess OMENIHU didn't fit, but he played only a few games, and they kind of sat him, and they kind of brought him back, but just, just as a deep rotation guy. I don't know if he got that much of a chance. It's an upside guy. I guess they didn't view him as a fit, but getting a 2023 6th, if you're going to, if it's going to be a 6th or a 7th, it better be in 2022. This is in 2023. So I didn't love it. They didn't get a 7th, they got a 6th, so that's what kept it from an F. I just don't like it for the Texans. I don't like the angle that they're approaching here. The only reason it's not an F because it's not a 7th-round pick, 6th-round pick, but it's in 2023. So I like it for the 49ers, really like it. More for the Texans. This was what didn't happen today. Happened was that late last week. Mark Ingram goes to the Saints. We actually saw him play in jersey number 14, which was weird to see, but he looks a little faster, looks a little thinner in that. I think that's how it works for all these players. Saints get an A, and the Texans, they get a 2024 7th. This is what I thought a little bit about. I was originally going to grade it even worse than a OMENIHU trade, because 2024, that's a few years from now, and it's a 7th. Couldn't they have got a better deal, maybe an earlier pick? It felt like they even said that, they wanted to help Mark Ingram out, send him back to the Saints, help him out a little bit. I'm more of it's a business type of guy, But I guess why I bumped it up and why it ended up being in the C range, I still don't like it, obviously, but why it's not terrible is, let's say they didn't trade him and they lost him in free agency. Could they have got a compensatory pick? Maybe. It would have been a 2023 7th at best. Maybe they wouldn't even got the pick. Probably, with all the free agents that are coming, there's going to be a lot of free agents this year. Yeah, I'm going to say they probably wouldn't have got anything. So they got something out of nothing, I suppose, but it's a 2024 7th, so it's nothing to get a little too excited about getting something out of nothing. My problem is, they didn't make the business decision. I think they could have got an earlier 7th from another team, because there was teams looking for running backs, and then teams deciding they didn't want to trade this running back, that running back, maybe just too important to their team in case somebody got hurt. I think teams would have got Mark Ingram for a little better price for the Texans. So I didn't love it for them, but hey, I guess they get something here. But I'm not really thrilled with what they're doing over there. Saints get an A. They needed a back to rotate with Alvin Kamara, and then allow Alvin Kamara to play more of a receiver role at times as well. I mean, Ingram fits the system. We know that. He looked good in the carries that the reps that he got against the Buccaneers as well. Broncos made a few deals. This one was with the Vikings last week, Stephen Weatherly. We're going to circle back to the more deals that happened today, of course. Don't mind the order here. Stephen Weatherly in the 2023 7th-round pick to the Broncos, and the Vikings so they swap 7th. The Vikings get this year's 7th, so they move up a year. Here it's conditional, so I think it was if Weatherly doesn't stick, then they lose that. It just felt like the Vikings. That's why it's this tricky one for the Vikings. I gave it a B+ for the Broncos. They don't have a 7th. They don't keep their 7th this year, so it's not, it's you get a player and you only swap 7ths, and Weatherly made somewhat of an impact this past weekend. Expiring deal though. B plus. It's a good trade. It's just not A range because you do swap sevenths here. You won't have a seventh this year. Do you extend this guy? It's a solid trade for them. You get a body for this year. Wasn't 100% necessary. It's kind of why I couldn't keep it in the A range, but B plus is overall good, obviously. The Vikings, it's tricky because, yeah, you get a seventh this year. It's conditional, but it looks like they'll get it. But you swap. You don't get a seventh next year, but you move up at least this year. That's kind of the good. But now Danielle Hunter gets hurt because you use Weatherly. You got other bodies in there, of course. They don't absolutely need them. They're not going to miss them desperately now, but that doesn't look that good. To me, it felt like, especially with the conditional pick, it felt like they viewed it as a goal of theirs to clear that. I think it was like 1.5 million, or maybe it was 1 to 1.5 million in cap space for Weatherly. They cleared that, did nothing at the deadline. It felt like they were going to do something. Maybe they realized the season's not going their way because his last loss. I don't know. So it's kind of all over the place with the Vikings. It just seemed like it was so unnecessary. I guess Danielle Hunter getting hurt kind of didn't help either. So I gave it a C. It's nothing to panic about or anything like that. It's not like it's terrible. It's just odd. It's just a very odd one. Broncos, again, this trade was last week. Kenny Young, linebacker. He's been playing pretty well for the Rams. Pretty decent. They get him in a 2024 seventh. They give up a 2024 sixth. I like Kenny Young. I like the way he's been playing. He hasn't been super consistent, but the Broncos needed help at inside linebacker. And you only swap 2024 picks. I mean, you do give up a six, but I like it, because he could be solid in that system. I think he's a fit. Why it's A minus is a very good grade, but why maybe it's not an A? Yeah, could this just be a rental? Could it be a rental? And then they just go back to A.J. Johnson. They have to, and who they have is out right now. And then Josie Jewell, same situation. Could they just go back to those guys? And, all right, Kenny Young, we just kind of used you for a year. And then it was like, we went from a 6th to a 7th for that. It is in 2024. But, saying it that way, maybe he should be in the B range. But I kind of like it, though, because Kenny Young's a good player. I think he fits. And they kind of give him a trial this year. Hey, maybe this guy could be the future starter. It's a good trial run here. So I gave it an A minus there for the Broncos. Rams, this is a weird one because the Rams don't like to pay. They just don't value the inside linebacker position a whole lot. They don't like to pay those guys. That's why I thought it was kind of weird that everyone thought they were going to get Myles Jack. They don't pay those guys, and he was going to be a free agent, so they wanted to get something out of him, but they just swapped 2024 picks. But okay, I don't know. And then and I guess they wanted to give a guy like Ernest Jones more playing time, but Kenny Young has been their best inside linebacker. Not saying much because they struggle at the position a little bit. But then I'm thinking, they're clearing space, actually. It's not about the future, not being able to pay him. I think they're clearing space, and they got themselves with this deal to over, it was they got about to 5.1 million in cap space. So they're up to something to trade deadline, right? And then, they trade for Von Miller. And Von Miller's got a pretty beefy remaining salary. So that makes sense, and I want to give it a much better grade. But I'm like, wait a second. The Broncos are paying $9 million of Von Miller's salary, though. And that's why the Rams gave up so many picks for that. So the Rams only had to pay $720K for Von Miller. So the Rams still are sitting around with that cleared space that they didn't really use. Were they trying to do something else? So we can't use that factor here to bump the grade up. I gave it a C+. They move up to the 6th round. They weren't going to extend Kenny Young, but they're trying to win now. I thought Kenny Young could have helped them a little bit. It just seemed like they could have got better value. If I'm a team that needed inside linebacker, I would have traded a little more in this for Kenny Young, actually. And this was a guy used to get to trade away Marcus Peters, too. So I gave it a C+. Again, not terrible at all. It would have looked a lot better, though, if that cap saved was used for, technically, they're paying Von Miller $720K, so they are using that, but they have plenty of space. They're still sitting there with about 4 point whatever million still. So it's weird, interesting. I think they were trying to make another deal, and why they had the Broncos pay a good portion of that. So it was interesting. This is what happened today. Another Broncos deal. The Broncos will get a 2022 6th round pick conditional. So I'm definitely confident this one is. If he sticks, if he just doesn't make the Eagles team after they get him in there, then the Broncos probably don't see the pick. Eagles get Kerry Vincent Jr. I gave the Broncos an A. They drafted him in the 7th round. He's been a healthy scratch all year. They get a 6th round pick. It could end up being, like we said, because it's conditional, It could end up being that they traded Kerry Vincent Jr. for nothing. So I was like, do I want to drop this a little bit then because it's conditional? But they drafted him to 7th. He hasn't played yet. 7th-round picks don't make teams all the time. If he is dropped, can he revert back to their practice squad, the Broncos? Maybe. I gave it an A. I turned a 7th into a possible 6th. They're gaining some draft picks here, some capital. I think this will be a team that moves around in the future a little bit in the draft. Just a feeling, just where George Payton's coming from, Minnesota, and their philosophy on things. So they like collecting those types of picks. So I gave it an A. Eagles get Kerry Vincent Jr. A 7th-round pick, they trade a 6th. He hasn't played, so it's kind of just going off your prospect evaluation. But he went in the 7th, so that's why it's a little odd. But I do like the fit, and they're going to bring him in for kind of a trial run. If he doesn't work out, maybe they get that pick back. They don't have to spend it there. And if he sticks, then he sticks. You gave up a 6th-round pick. I do think he can fit. I think a slot corner that you can use kind of a blitz a little bit, which the Eagles need to do a little bit more. He kind of can use a hybrid slot corner. So I do like the fit. B, I wish it was a 7th-round pick. I would probably put it in A. To me, it's a difference. I value all picks there. Next up, we got the Joe Flacco trade. The Jets bring back Joe Flacco that they had him. Best case, you wish they just kept him instead of have to trade for him. So it doesn't look great. But I don't factor that in a whole bunch. I just factor in, was this necessary? You have Mike White. Zach Wilson's going to come back. It feels like they brought him in just to coach up Zach Wilson, which I've never been a big fan of that. Everyone kind of, I think, overhypes that. A veteran quarterback that kind of coaches up a guy. That's what the coaches are for now. You're going to have him for half a year. Is he a rental? Is he just going to be there half a year coaching this guy up, mentoring him? Are you going to re-sign him? You probably should have just signed him back in the first place. It's not a killer. The Jets shouldn't really be giving up picks. And the conditional is good for the Eagles. It could turn into a 5th-round pick here. It could actually turn into a 5th-round pick. So, but based on playing time. So I think it's going to be a 6th. Eagles, they weren't using them anyways. This is great for them. A 6th that can turn into a 5th. Again, I think it's going to be a 6th. I think it's great for the Eagles. I gave the Eagles a B and an A, but actually, I was talking on Twitter, overall, I think they're kind of losers of the trade deadline because they cleared all this space from the start of the year till now, restructuring deals, not pay cuts, restructures, that is pushing money back to larger cap hits in the future, just so you can clear. They got $21 million in cap space, which is a whopping number for this year, and they spent it on trading for Kerry Vincent. It's a little bit of a fail there. So even though some good grades here, not the biggest winners of the trade deadline, but the Jets, I gave it a C. I think just overdoing the coaching aspect, the mentor aspect. You have Mike White, got Zach Wilson coming back. It's not the end of the world, but I would like for them to keep their picks there. So that wraps up all the trades that happened there. So let me know your guys' grades in the comments. We're always talking with you on Twitter. That's going to wrap this up. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Full NFL coverage here, so join us for all of that. Be much appreciated. That is going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.